Picture a voice so electrifying it could stop time. A woman who conquered the music world only to be swept into a whirlwind of scandals, rivalries, and a heartbreaking tragedy that silenced her forever. Linda Ronstadt, the undisputed queen of rock, isn't just a name, she's a legend whose story is as gripping as her music. From chart-topping hits to explosive feuds with music giants, from personal betrayals to a devastating illness, her life is a saga of highs and lows that will leave you speechless. You're not going to believe the twists in this tale, so stick with me until the end to uncover the truth behind one of rock's greatest icons. Let's dive into the wild, unforgettable world of Linda Ronstadt. Linda Ronstadt was born to shine. Born on July 15, 1946, in Tucson, Arizona, she grew up in a family where music was as essential as air. Her Mexican heritage filled her childhood, with traditional songs from mariachi to folk, and her parents encouraged her love for performing. By her teens, she was singing with her siblings in a trio called the New Union Ramblers, already showing the spark of a star. But Tucson was too small for her dreams. In 1964, at just 18, she packed her bags and headed to Los Angeles, ready to take on the music world. She joined a band called the Stone Ponies, and their 1967 hit Different Drum put her on the map. That voice, powerful, versatile, and dripping with emotion, made people stop and listen. By the 1970s, Linda was a superstar, churning out hits like You're No Good, When Will I Be Loved, and Blue Bayou. She didn't just sing rock, she tackled country, pop, Latin, and even opera, proving she was a force like no other. Her concerts were electric, her albums flew off shelves, and fans couldn't get enough. But behind the glitz of fame, trouble was brewing. The 1970s music scene was a battlefield, especially for a woman breaking barriers. Linda wasn't just a singer, she was a pioneer, one of the first women to dominate a male-driven rock industry. That came with a price. Executives pushed her to fit a mold, critics scrutinized her every move, and she faced pressure from all sides. One critic, Robert Christgau, a towering figure in music journalism, was particularly harsh. He praised her voice but called her a performer, not a creator, accusing her of leaning too heavily on cover songs without adding enough of her own soul. His words cut deep, and they didn't stop. Recently, Christgau reignited the fire, dismissing her entire legacy as overrated and her music calculated. He claimed she lacked the raw authenticity of peers like Joni Mitchell or Patti Smith. For fans, this was blasphemy. How could anyone attack a voice that defined an era? But Christgau's jabs were just the beginning. Linda's career was a minefield of conflicts that kept her in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Let's talk about one of the messiest feuds in rock history, Linda versus the Eagles. Early on, Glenn Frey and Don Henley were part of her backing band, playing gigs and honing their craft. Linda's star power gave them exposure, and she helped them get noticed. But when the Eagles formed their own band and skyrocketed to fame, things turned sour. Frey felt Linda took too much credit for their success, acting like she was the reason they made it big. Linda, on the other hand, believed she'd given them a platform they wouldn't have had otherwise. The bad blood lingered, with subtle digs and interviews, and a rivalry that fans loved to dissect. It wasn't just about music, it was personal, a clash of egos that fueled tabloid headlines. And the Eagles weren't the only ones who clashed with Linda. Then there was Stevie Nicks, the Fleetwood Mac goddess whose mystical vibe couldn't have been more different from Linda's no-nonsense style. Both were queens of the 1970s rock scene, but behind the scenes, there was tension. Insiders whispered about an unspoken rivalry, a quiet battle for the top spot. Stevie's ethereal persona and songwriting chops made her a critical darling, while Linda's powerhouse vocals and commercial success made her a fan favorite. They never threw punches publicly, but the industry buzzed with stories of their frosty interactions. It was like two titans circling each other, neither willing to give an inch. But if you thought that was juicy, buckle up for Linda's feud with Patti Smith, the punk rock rebel who changed the game. Patti Smith was everything Linda wasn't: raw, unpolished, and fiercely anti-commercial. She called Linda's music too safe, accusing her of chasing hits instead of pushing boundaries. Linda didn't take it lying down. She shot back, calling Patti pretentious and overhyped, dismissing her as someone trying too hard to be profound. This wasn't just a spat, it was a clash of ideals. Patti represented the gritty, rebellious side of rock, while Linda was the polished superstar who dominated the charts. Their disdain for each other was no secret, and it only grew as they fought for influence in a crowded industry. These feuds weren't just gossip, they shaped how people saw Linda. To some, she was a trailblazer standing her ground. To others, she was a diva who couldn't handle criticism. While Linda was battling critics and peers, she was also fighting personal demons. Her family life was a source of both strength and struggle. Her Mexican heritage was a point of pride. She later explored it in albums like Canciones de mi Padre, but her strict, traditional upbringing clashed with her ambitions. Her parents wanted her to settle down, get married, and have kids, but Linda chose a different path. That decision caused friction, and she often felt caught between her love for music and her family's expectations. In interviews, she hinted at their disappointment, especially over her choice to stay unmarried and childless. It wasn't just emotional strain, there were financial disputes too. Despite her millions, Linda faced family conflicts over money, from inheritance battles to accusations of mismanagement. These private struggles stayed out of the headlines, but they weighed heavily on her. Linda's outspoken nature didn't help her keep the peace. She was never afraid to speak her mind, especially about politics. She supported causes like migrant rights and criticized the Reagan administration in the 1980s, which alienated some fans. Her boldest moment came in 2004 when she dedicated a song to filmmaker Michael Moore during a Las Vegas concert. The audience turned on her, booing her off the stage and forcing security to escort her out. The incident was a media firestorm, with conservative fans calling for boycotts. Some admired her courage, but others saw her as too divisive. Music executives grew wary, worried her unpredictability would hurt her marketability. By the late 1980s, her commercial peak was fading. Was it the rise of new music trends like grunge and pop, or had her political stances pushed fans away? The truth was probably a mix of both. Her love life was just as turbulent. Linda dated some of the biggest names of her era: California Governor Jerry Brown, Star Wars creator George Lucas, and musician J.D. Souther. Each relationship brought its own drama. Insiders said her fierce independence made it hard for her to commit, and she faced her share of heartbreaks. One of the most surprising chapters was her engagement to comedian Jim Carrey, long before he was a household name. Their relationship was intense but short-lived, and when it ended, Linda was left picking up the pieces. She once said fame made it hard to find genuine love, and the betrayal she faced only deepened her sense of isolation. Her music became an outlet, with songs like Long, Long Time carrying the weight of her pain. Fans connected to that vulnerability, but it couldn't fill the void in her personal life. By the 1990s, the music world was changing, and Linda's star wasn't shining as brightly. Grunge, hip-hop, and pop dominated the charts, and her classic rock sound fell out of place, but Linda wasn't done. She reinvented herself, diving into jazz, Latin music, and even Broadway. Her 1987 album Canciones de mi Padre, a tribute to her Mexican roots, was a critical hit, proving she could still surprise the world. She kept performing, and her voice remained a marvel. Fans still flocked to her shows, unaware that a silent threat was looming. In the late 2000s, Linda noticed something terrifying: her voice. The cornerstone of her identity was starting to fail. It started small. Notes she once hit effortlessly felt strained. Her vibrato, a hallmark of her power, began to waver. At first, she blamed stress or vocal fatigue, but it got worse. By 2011, singing was nearly impossible. The diagnosis was a gut punch: Parkinson's disease. For Linda, this wasn't just a health issue, it was an attack on her very essence. Her voice wasn't just a tool. It was her armor, her weapon, the thing that carried her through every storm. Parkinson stole it piece by piece. Simple tasks like walking, eating, or even buttoning a shirt became struggles. The woman who once commanded arenas now needed help with everyday life. It was a cruel irony, and it shattered her fans as much as it did her. The music world reeled when the news broke. Linda canceled concerts and retreated from the public eye. Rumors about her health had swirled for years. Some blamed vocal strain, others speculated about burnout, but the truth was far darker. In 2013, she confirmed her diagnosis, revealing she could no longer sing at all, not even a hum. For a woman whose voice defined an era, this was unthinkable. Parkinson's didn't just take her career, it eroded her independence, the thing she valued most. The disease was relentless, turning small tasks into battles and forcing her to rely on others. For someone who'd fought so hard to carve her own path, this was its own kind of heartbreak. Linda's story is a tapestry of brilliance and pain. Her voice shaped rock history with hits that still resonate today. She broke barriers as a woman in a cutthroat industry, earning 11 Grammy Awards and selling over 100 million records. But her life was never easy. She faced down critics like Robert Christgau, who questioned her artistry. She clashed with peers like the Eagles, Stevie Nicks, and Patti Smith, proving she could hold her own. Her personal struggles, family tensions, financial disputes, and a string of heartbreaks added depth to her legend. Her political courage made her a hero to some and a pariah to others. And then came Parkinson's, the ultimate betrayal, stripping away the voice that defined her. So, what's the real legacy of Linda Ronstadt? Is she the untouchable queen of rock, or was she, as some critics claim, a talented singer who rode the wave of her time? Her achievements are undeniable: dozens of hits, a genre-defining career, and a voice that changed the game. But the controversies, feuds, and struggles are part of her story too. Maybe that's what makes her so compelling. She's not a perfect icon, she's human, flawed, and fiercely real. Her life shows us that even the brightest stars face darkness, and their greatest victory is often just refusing to give up. Linda's silence today is a stark contrast to the voice that once filled stadiums. Her songs live on in recordings, but the world mourns the chance to hear her sing one more time. Her absence from the stage feels like a missing piece of music history, a reminder of how fragile even the greatest talents are. Yet, her story isn't just about loss. It's about resilience, about a woman who faced every challenge head-on, from industry battles to personal heartbreak to an unforgiving disease. Linda Ronstadt didn't just make music, she lived it, and her legacy is proof that true legends never fade, even when their voices do. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Linda Ronstadt's incredible, complicated life. If this story moved you, hit that like button and share it with anyone who loves music or needs to know the truth behind a legend. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive. Drop a comment below. What's your favorite Linda Ronstadt song, or do you think her legacy outweighs the controversies? Let's keep the conversation alive, and I'll see you in the next video.